Today, we'll discuss on the topic food adulteration and precautions. Adulteration of foodstuff is commonly practiced in India by the trade. In India and also in many countries, food accounts for a large part of the family budget. Every consumer wants to get the maximum quantity of commodity for as low as price as possible. This attitude of consumers being coupled with the intention of the trader as well as the manufacturer to increase the margin of profit as high as possible permits the quality of commodity to get reduced through the addition of base substances or removal of vital elements, which is often known as adulteration. Keeping this in view of the health of the people, a legislation called Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954 was enacted for ensuring safe foods to the consumers. Now, we'll see the definition of food adulteration. Adulteration is defined as the process by which the quality or the nature of a given substance is reduced through the addition of a foreign or an inferior substance and the removal of a vital element. Adulterants are those substances which are used for making the food products unsafe for human consumption. For example, milk can be adulterated with water. According to the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act, an article of food shall be deemed to be adulterated. First, if the article sold by a vendor is not of the nature, substance or quality demanded by the purchaser and is to his prejudice, or is not of the nature, substance of quality which it purports or it represented to be. Next, if it contains any other substance which affects or if the article is so processed as to affect injuriously the nature, substance or quality. Next, if any inferior or cheaper substance has been substituted wholly or in part for the article, so as to affect injuriously the nature, substances or quality. Next, if any constituent of the article has been wholly or in part abstracted so as to affect injuriously the nature, substance or quality. Next, if the article has been prepared, packaged or kept under insanitary conditions whereby it has become contaminated or injurious to health. Next, if the article consists wholly or in part any fetid, putrid, disgusting, rotten, decomposed or diseased animal or vegetable substances or insects infested or otherwise unfit for human consumption. Next, if the article is obtained from a diseased animal. Next, if the article contains any poisonous or other ingredients which renders it injurious to health. If the container of the article is composed, whether wholly or in part, of any poisonous or deleterious substances which render its content injurious to health. If any coloring matter other than that prescribed in respect of and in amounts not within the prescribed limit of variability is present in the article. Next, if the article contains any prohibited preservatives or permitted preservatives in excess of the prescribed limit. Next is that if the quality of purity of the article falls below the prescribed standard or its constituents are present in quantities which are excess of the prescribed limit of variability. Now, we'll see the types of adulterant. Adulterants can be classified into two types, that is intentional and incidental. First, we'll see the intentional. Intentional adulterants are those substances that are added as a deliberate act on the part of the adulterer with the intention to increase the margin of profit. Example, sand, marble, chips, stones, mud, chalk powder, water, dyes, etc. This adulterant cause harmful effect on the body. Next is the incidental. These adulterants are found in food substances due to ignorance, negligence, or lack of proper facilities. It is not a willful act on the part of the adulterer. Example, pesticides, dropping of rodents, larvae in food. Now, we'll see the common adulterant in different foods. There are a variety of adulterants present in various foods, but for today, I'll discuss only a few of them. First is the milk and milk products. Addition of water to milk and removal of a part of the fat as cream from milk are common malpractices resorted to by the vendors. Sometimes, milk reconstituted from skim milk powder is mixed with pure milk and sold as pure milk. Hydrogenated vegetable fat, that is banaspati, is added to skim milk and homogenized. The cream separated from such milk is used to adulterate genuine cream. In order to increase butter fat content, hydrogenated vegetable fat is added to milk. Milk powder is admixed with dextrin powder or soluble starch. Ghee is adulterated with banaspati or animal fats. Cheap edible and non-edible oils such as linseed oil, crude cottonseed, argemone oil, and mineral oil, also called white oil, and industrial chemicals like TGP are used to adulterate costly vegetables oil. Toxic effect in human subjects due to admixture of argemone oil with mustard oil have been reported frequently from time to time. Regular consumption of mustard oil containing even 10% of argemone oil can cause a disease known as epidemic dropsy in human beings. The disease starts with gastrointestinal disturbance, irregular fever, and rashes over the exposed part of the body and low pulse rate. Edema of the face, hands and legs, enlargement of the liver and respiratory trouble occur. The subject may die due to cardiac failure. The use of TCP for adulterating mustard oil was reported from Bengal in 1972. The consumers became crippled due to paralysis of leg muscles. Next is the wheat products. Tapioca flour is used to adulterate wheat flour and tapioca suji is used to adulterate with semolina. Next is the pulses. Kesari dal, Lathyrus sativus, colored yellow with coal tar dye are used to adulterate Bengal gram dals. Kesari dal contains a toxin which caused the cripple disease known as lathyrism. Honey. Colored sugar syrups are used to adulterate honey. Beverage. Coffee powder is adulterated with powder obtained from roasted bran, roasted date seeds, or roasted tamarind seed. Tea is adulterated with exhausted tea leaves of other plants. Next is the spices and condiments. Asafoetida is adulterated with vegetable gums and raisins. Turmeric is coated with lead chromate or coal tar dyes. Starch-colored yellow with coal dye is added to turmeric powder. Starch-colored brown with dye is added to curry powder. Mustard is adulterated with argemone seeds. Black pepper is adulterated with papaya seeds. Processed scanted areca nut is adulterated with broken pieces of other nuts. Now, we'll see the contamination of foods with toxic chemicals, pesticides, and insecticides. Food can become contaminated with toxic metals or chemicals such as compounds of lead, mercury, arsenic, antimony, dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane or DDT, etc. due to the following causes. First, accidental mixing of the food with the toxic chemicals used as rat poison such as arsenic oxide, barium carbonate, lead arsenate, and others. Second, accidental contamination with pesticides and insecticides. Third, the presence of some toxic chemicals or minerals in certain marine foods, example, mercury. Fourth, the presence of excessive amount of certain food additives. First, we'll see the toxic metals. Lead is a toxic element and contamination of food with lead can cause toxic symptoms. For example, turmeric is coated by illiterate manufacturer in India by lead chromate. Lead brings about pathological changes in the kidneys, liver and arteries. The common signs of lead poisoning are nausea, abdominal pain, anemia, muscular paralysis and brain damage. Fish caught from water contaminated with mercuric salts contain large amount of mercury. The organic mercury compound, methyl or dimethyl mercury, is the most toxic. The toxic effects of methyl mercury are neurological. The other elements which are toxic in small doses are cadmium, arsenic, antimony, cobalt, etc. Next, we'll see the pesticides. Organic pesticides such as DDT, BHC, malathion, etc. are toxic compounds. The Prevention of Food Adulteration Act has prescribed maximum limits for the presence of these pesticides in foods. If the pesticides are present in greater amount, they are likely to cause toxic effects. Food additives. The Prevention of Food Adulteration Act has prescribed safe maximum limit for the presence of food additives such as metabisulfite, benzoic acid, and sorbic acid in processed foods. Solvent residues. Hexane is the solvent permitted for the solvent extraction of oil from oilseed cakes. A safe limit of 170 parts per million has been prescribed for hexane in solvent extracted edible oilseed flour. Next is the animal feed additives. Special additives such as diethyl sylvestrol and antibiotics are added to animal and poultry feeds in the United States of America and other Western countries. These are present in the meat of animal feed on feeds containing these chemicals. Sylvestrol, even in smaller doses, can cause leukemia and cancer. Antibiotic can cause drug resistance and hardening of arteries. Further, incidental contamination in food can also occur by the microorganisms. Food grains, legumes, and oilseeds, when stored in humid atmosphere, are infected by pathogenic fungus which can cause serious illness. Now we'll see the prevention of food adulteration. In India, Prevention of Food Adulteration program has been developed to ensure safe food for the consumers. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in India ensures that get safe food. The legislation called the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954 was drafted for this purpose. The aim of this legislation is to ensure that get pure and wholesome and also prevent fraud or deception. The initial legislation had loopholes and hence the Act has been amended 3 times in 1964, 1976 and in 1986. The punishment have been made more stringent and consumers and voluntary organizations have been empowered to play a more effective role in its implementation. The Prevention of Food Adulteration Act is in the list of the Constitution, but it is enforced by the state, union territory government. The major role of central government is as an advisory in its implementation. Prevention of Food Adulteration Program. Under the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act, rules have been amended several times and quality standards for about 250 food articles which are commonly consumed in India have been fixed. Implementation of food standard in corporation or municipal area rests with the local bodies. These bodies employ their own food inspector for examination and maintenance of standard. They are responsible for licensing of food industries establishment as well. The food safety and standard. The Food Safety and Standard 2006 was passed by Parliament in August 2006. After this legislation came into effect, the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954 stands revoked. However, the standard safety requirement and other provisions of the Act and the rules and regulations met under Prevention of Food Adulteration Act are still followed by this Act until new standards are specified under this Act or rules and regulations met. Lastly, poisoning of food due to incidental adulteration in foods can be prevented by the following. First, regular market survey to warn people of dangerous build-up of toxins in the food. Stepping up the integrated pest management program to teach farmers to use pesticides judiciously. Taking up on a war footing the control of pests using their natural predators. Using safer pesticides unlike synthetic ones like malathion, and washing vegetables thoroughly before cooking. Conclusion. I'll end the session by saying that adulteration of foodstuff is one of the common practices employed to increase food market. Adulterated food is impure, unsafe, or unwholesome food. Incidents of food contamination have occurred because of poor harvesting or storage of grain, use of vain veterinary products, industrial discharges, human error, and deliberate adulteration. Selection of wholesome and non-adulterated food is essential for daily life to make sure that such foods do not cause any health hazard. As a part of preventive measure, Prevention of Food Adulteration Program and other act has been developed to ensure safe food for the people. But, in spite of several measures adopted for enforcement of the Act by the agencies as well as institutions to put an end to this practice, the act of adulteration cannot be checked to the desired extent and instead went on increasing. Therefore, we as a consumer also should be aware of the ingredients in the food that we are consuming it. The consumer should avoid taking food from an unhygienic place and food being prepared under unhygienic conditions. Such type of foods may cause various diseases. Consumption of cut fruits being sold in unhygienic conditions should be avoided. It is always better to buy certified food from reputed shops.